Hello, everyone. My name is Daniel Hodab, and we are having today our fourth session of our Law of One Europe Telegram group, the study group. I'm very excited to welcome Gabriel Lugo. Hi, Gabriel.
Hey, everybody. Thank you, Daniel, for again the invitation and for allowing me to share what I have in store in session one and what we're going to continue doing in this project. So, yeah, I'm excited to be here and share this live for the first time, actually.
Thank you very much. We will have that session now every Thursday by 7 p.m. CET time. And we have some small exception by maybe by next week, Gabriel will not be available, but from then on further, we continue on weekly basis. We may have our session as well next week, but I will announce it later in the group. And for now, I would hand over to Gabriel. Let's start up.
Okay. I wanted to ask, I have made a presentation with some slides. Is everybody okay with looking at the slides? It's just the text that I selected from session one. I might need permission to share, Daniel, if you can. And so before I do that, I can say that what I sort of plan to do, and it's always open, for everybody's thoughts and ideas and suggestions, is to go over every session. And I'm picking what I find most important to me in regards to the core message of the Law of One. That's what I kind of suggested in the introduction that I am able to do with most devotion and passion that I have for this path. So I want to continue doing that, but always open to any suggestions. Like I said, I feel that we can get into any session and we know that we can just read the material and find so many great things that relate to this path. But there are some things that I arbitrarily have been leaving out, of course, and I want to mention some of those first, again, for the sake of time and also for my intention to keep everything as condensed as possible within the message that I consider to be most central in every session. Some of the sessions may not have much, but I always make the best out of it, and I just go into it and find, whatever I find closest to the heart of the message. So let's see. Before I get into the slides, in this session, this is obviously the first session, and there's a couple of things. For example, you'll see that this is the first and only time where Ra, in the nomenclature of the Q&As, which we have as 1.0, 1.1, and so on. In 1.0, or their greetings, the first time where they actually go into a monologue and they just start, talking without being asked any questions. Now, of course, this is because this is the first time they're communicating, and I often joke that the first session was they probably didn't know if they were going to continue doing sessions, and they said, let's just give them everything in session one, like everything, the whole message is here. You don't need to go to any other session. Like, you read this and that should be it. So there's a lot of poetic language there, which I love. I love the poetic language that Ra uses in many ways, and I find that those are the lines that gives us more for contemplation rather than the structure of densities and things like that, which just open for imagination in other ways. So yeah, this is the first time that Ross speaks in a sort of monologue. I think the guys at L&L Research used to call it, or somebody else, like a cosmic sermon, where they just talk and they just said everything that they wanted to speak. The other entities do this as well. Other things that I left out of the presentation are some of the information about channeling adjustments, that's in there too, because they're trying to communicate for the first time. So this is all about, tuning in, and they try to communicate through a couple of people, including Don, actually. But I don't think they were successful. Questions that arise, of course, speaking of Ra, and that it's in there, is their role with the Egyptians, because everybody knows Ra associated with the Egyptians first. So there's at least two questions there, I think. And they also mentioned, this is something that I guess we all go through in the study of the law of one, the planetary changes, and they say that's trivial stuff. Don't worry about that. We don't concern ourselves with that. So that's another thing I didn't include. And lastly is the information for further contact, which is towards the end, where they just go through how to wake up Carla, and how to, if they're going to be available for further communication in the future. And this is where they really set up the, I guess, the methodology for contacting Ra. So yeah, that's basically all that I can summarize that is outside of the presentation. So with the presentation, I would like to through different slides. Let me start this up. I'm actually going to use, I forgot to, let's see if it works. This was gifted to me by Gary. I finally have one of these, so I don't have to use my mouse. Let's see. It's not working. Let's begin again. That's why. Yay, working. Okay. So, I guess as I go through the slides, can everybody see the slides? Yeah, it's been shared fully, perfectly. Okay. I think I started on slide 2. Right, yeah. So for every slide, if you want to comment something or have a question or just, anything, any intervention, just, I guess, raise your hand. And Daniel, help me, because I'm kind of looking around the different windows that I have if I don't see anybody's or somebody's raising their hand. But this is the first part that I have. And this is, again, this is what I said, 1.0 is the first time where in their greeting, they go straight out to talk about the message, right? And in their presentation, you'll see that they go to say, you have a need for the diversity of experiences in channeling, which go with a more intensive, or as you might call it, advanced approach to the system of studying the patterns of the illusions of your body, your mind, and your spirit, which you call seeking the truth. I should have highlighted that part, seeking the truth. That's one of the things that to me is, it's highlighted. And they say, we hope to offer you a somewhat different slant upon the information, which is always and ever the same. That's another part I should have highlighted. So I think at the beginning here, they're talking about their seeking, right? What they're seeking information through channeling and so on. So to me, what stands out again is this part where they say that, well, in essence, you're seeking that which is the truth. And so we are going to offer you a different slant upon the information, which is always and ever the same. So this means, and this is what I see in any other system of study, and once we get into the law of one or any other material, really, there's a lot of people that come into the law of one and say, yes, they're talking about the same thing I learned here and there. Or like in my case, I started with the law of one, and then I was branching out to other systems of studies, and I said, oh, okay, that's what they mean. And that's because here, when they offer the information, which is always and ever the same, they're saying the perennial philosophy. there is only one being. There is only one self, and that self is you. Everything else is just an iteration of yourself. So when we hear this from the perspective of separation, we are shocked because we don't know how to make sense of this. And that's the whole purpose. That's the whole fun of this journey, is just to make sense of this from an understanding that doesn't come from the mind, but experiential. So yeah, this is the part where I love that they, from the beginning, in the first couple of paragraphs or lines that they're providing to us, they mention you're seeking the truth. These patterns, studying of patterns of the illusions of your body, in essence, everything that you're learning, it's because you're seeking the truth. Everybody is in that path. Everybody, even unconsciously, people are seeking the truth, because truth is always, it radiates as peace, happiness, beauty, and love. And everybody's looking for that. So when I say that people, even unconsciously, are looking for that, it's because every one of our actions are geared towards that. We always have that motivation underlining our actions. So when we consciously seek it, then we are open to, let's say, information that is richer, right? And it serves the purpose of our activities, which is the constant seeking. So again, Ra is saying, we're going to give you that type of information, but it's a different slant, just like any other teacher or master would. But in the core, at the essence, it's always the same. And so this one important statement is all things, all of life, all of the creation is part of one original thought. In the law of one model, we understand this one original thought as that which generated. It made itself generated in that plenum, which is itself. And that original thought contains the understanding, the harvest, the gathering of all the information from prior experience into this new one. So it's almost like we sometimes equate this to the Big Bang, right? That's our model of seeing the physical universe and how it was created with something like that. The one original thought is part of that creation. So everything is coming from that one original thought. Not the self. The self does not come from that one original thought. The creator does not come, obviously, from that one original thought. Is everything that there is. It's coming out from that one original thought. And the creator is the one that has the one original thought and any other thought for that matter. There's nothing outside the creator. And speaking of thought, they say, let us for a moment consider thoughts. What is it, my friends, to take thoughts? Took you then thought today? What thoughts did you think today? What thoughts were part of the original thought today? In how many of your thoughts did the creation abide? Was love contained? And was service freely given? So this, to me, invites us directly into understanding what is thought. Is thought just something that appears in our minds and it's just bothering us? Is thought information that is suggesting something to us? Is it informing us of something in particular? So we become sort of like our own psychologists here, and that's the purpose of it, right? When we hear in spiritual communities talk about becoming your own master or teacher, that's like the culmination of needing anybody or anything to teach you, but rather you become the source of that information. So to me, this is indicating that. It's suggesting, pay attention to your thoughts. Are they containing love? Are they part of the original thought? All of this, of course, is open to contemplation in terms of what is it that our mind is always ruminating on? What kind of repetitive thoughts do we have? Things like that are as important as anything, as any mystical experience. Is just Everything is relevant in the present moment. And then they say, within the same sermon and the longest part of the session, you are not part of a material universe. You are part of a thought. That's thought-provoking. You are dancing in a ballroom in which there is no material. You are dancing thoughts. You move your body, your mind, and your spirit in somewhat eccentric patterns, for you have not completely grasped the concept that you are part of the original thought. So this is very profound to me because let me say a couple of things. The first is that we live in a society that has been built on the belief of materialism. So materialism came from the idea that first there is matter, there's substance out there. That matter moves randomly and it mutates and it evolves into this, and just randomly we become aware, have a mind, and that mind becomes aware of itself. It's very weird because that is completely opposite to the experience that we have. We don't have such an experience. That's why we have never been able to find matter. And even though in intellectual understandings and resonance, right, intuitive resonance of our path, we should say, we don't consider that we are a body. We kind of extrapolate this into I am energy, I am a soul, I am something. Our thoughts still contain, our patterns, our thought patterns still contain the belief in separation or the belief in matter. So here is, the beginning of saying, consider that you're not part of a material universe. There is no matter here. We've never been able to find matter. And yet we have a strong belief in matter. And a lot of our thoughts are informed by this belief. The interesting thing is that we don't have, it's not even if you're a materialist science that you believe this. It's because our experience, our perceptions create this belief. We just reinforce it with science and culture and so on. But our perceptions are the first ones indicating and strengthening this belief of matter. And matter by itself is separate. So you see, from the beginning, from this idea that we are part of a material universe is where we forget and we get involved into this wheel of becoming. So you're part of a thought. Well, that's even more interesting because if I am part of a thought and there is only one original thought, then we are all part of the same original thought. So what is the nature of that thought? That is a great invitation for self-inquiry. And again, we're dancing in a ballroom in which there is no material. There is no such thing as matter. We have never experienced it. We'll never be able to experience it. And it's a big illusion. We are dancing thoughts. And the reason why we behave the way we behave is because we haven't completely grasped that we are part of that one original thought. So that is the path. That is the journey. That is the return. This is now moving into the first question that they are asked. I'm not sure. Let me just double check if that question. I think they're just asking, yes, what is your purpose? They have members of the Confederation have a purpose. What is your purpose? So here's one that may be confusing for anybody who's starting the Law of One or actually comes from other spiritual material. And it's just because they forgot to put the word density, but then I believe Jim, of course, might have been the scribe that decided to put the word density there, but they begin to say, we're not those of the love or the light. It's a little scary if we just look at it that way. Oh my God, Ra is not loving and it's not from the light, they're from the darkness and unloving. No, they just mean density, something that in future sessions we're going to find that is the structure of the universe, and our beautiful energy centers reflect that too. So we are those who are of the law of one, the law of one being sixth density, as some of you might know very well. And they say that in their vibration, the polarities are harmonized, the complexities are simplified, and the paradoxes have their solution. We are one. That is our nature and our purpose. I want to take this out of the abstract and the fantastic view that there are entities who are in some other place that we are not. Everything being holographic, of course, we are also in that oneness. We are also in that space. That's why we have energy centers. And so this path, something that we will explore further on with the disciplines of the personality, because the disciplines of the personality are the tools that we have within the raw material for achieving, and achieving is not the right word, but just remembering, perhaps, just going back to the primordial states of unity with everything. And so that is the spiritual work of the adept. So that is indigo ray, right? You'll see that in the raw material when they talk about indigo ray work and indigo ray activation and all these things, they're always referring to sixth density, right? Indigo ray is the sixth energy center, chakra. So that's because we also have, obviously, that capacity to live from that oneness, from that sense of unity. And that is the mystical path. That is the path of the adept. So our experience is just within this third density illusion, but we don't have to. And I kind of emphasize this because I hear often the suggestion, which seems to be more coming out of the separate self, that yes, we're all one, but we're all here in separation. So might as well just get used to the separation and the ego and so on. So it sounds to me like the ego wants to perpetuate itself there. Nice try, though. Nice try. This is the invitation, of course, and that's what we'll find in the core message, or the essence of the law of one. So that is their nature and purpose, to communicate in this way. That's why we find in the raw material so many lines that are permeated by this view, by this understanding, by this vision of unity. Now, I think this enters my favorite part of session one. There is so much that we can take out of this. And you can see that I skipped many questions here. This is question 7. And they say, consider, if you will, that the universe is infinite. This has yet to be proven or disproven, but we can assure you that there is no end to yourselves. Your understanding, what you would call your journey of seeing. So you can actually check in your experience. But if you practice self-inquiry and you go within yourself, which is what you call self, right? If you go within and you really explore, what is it that you call I? And then try to find a limit to that I, which is not a thought, which is not a perception. You will be able to validate this. In other words, this is implicit in our experience.
Gabriel, I think Tatiana have a question on that.
Yes, please. Go ahead.
Regarding the last statement about we are not of those of the density of love or the density of light, we are those of the loved one. I was just thinking about that. Does that mean that the loved one is above all densities because it's just one?
Yeah, that's a good question. So you see, in sixth density is where there are no more polarities because sixth density is uh, it's the return, and I'm going to describe this, intellectually, but we can also experience this because we have 7 energy centers. So we are able to always validate all of this information within ourselves. Uh, but sixth density is that point in which you cannot see more polarities, you cannot see duality. In terms of experience, in the grand scheme of things, this means that there is no more separation, right? Um, every density being, of course, a sort of curriculum of experience to know the self. The whole purpose of creation is to know the self. And once you approach the end of sixth density, then it's just the portal to dissolution. Seventh density still has a sort of mind, body, spirit, complex totality beingness, which gets a little bit more abstract. But yes, sixth density, I would say that law of one is actually, it's beyond, of course, densities. It's like Buddhahood. Buddhahood is not something in particular. It's just everything. Um, but yeah, I would say sixth density is the point in which, this experience is inevitable, let's say. I see Yelena has
Yeah,
something.
my thinking or takeaway of this is because if we say, oh, I'm six density, or rather we are six, or we are love, or we are light, but those are still labeling. I think what they want to say is we are that one, we are all, we are light, we are love, and we are not just those which we think is kind of labeling that I'm love or I'm light, but I'm all. I think this is, I feel a little bit, yeah, there's also, maybe they have for sure some difficulty to express themselves in human language, because the one is also the all. It's not just, oh, we are six density, we are love and light, but you're labeling that, or we labeling that. That's why they say we are not those of love or of light, because we are not, we are all, right? We are that one, the one is all. So we are at the same time everything. We are you, you are me. Is that so? Don't say this is just one word. It look like, okay, you got this label, you are light, you got another label, you are love, right? So it's my understanding here.
Actually, I love that interpretation better. I appreciate you sharing that because yes, that's a way to reconcile both, right? Because that's love and light is just one thing, and they're representing that. Even saying that you are from sixth density or from the law of one, all these labels just provide another way for us, especially humans. We humans obviously like to categorize things, but yeah, that's a beautiful interpretation of this, and to say yes, we're not from love or the light. We are everything that there is. The thing is that, of course, we have to work this out, and I don't think this is the case, with our group, but some people might say, oh, so they are God, they're the ones that are everything, and who am I, and so on. But yeah, that's oftentimes, what I resort to is to see Ra not as an entity. And I would like to share this. I don't see Ra as an entity. We create entities, right? So they cannot be an entity. What I see is they're a manifestation of a resource that we all have availability to. That's how I like to see it. Every entity, every influence that we have in our minds is a resource of the cosmic mind, and everybody belongs to the cosmic mind. So entities to me are sort of resources, experiential resources that exist, that are available for, for our minds. And it so happens those resources are located in a part of our cosmic mind that is congruent with the structure that we're looking at here, which is densities, right? And so I see you because you're a resource of the cosmic mind expressing itself in third density, and I have an apparatus that allows me to see you. So I see everything just as information. It's just an information, fiesta here. It's just a constant sharing of the experience of the one creator expressing itself in different ways. So yes, it's a way to talk about that density in which everything is seen as one. Thank you, Yelena. That was beautiful. Okay, so again, as I said, we can validate this, that the universe or ourselves is what we call self is infinite. There is no limitation. All limitations come from abstraction in thought or perception itself. Yes, and your understanding, there's no limit to your understanding. To me, of course, they're talking about the journey that is not my journey as an individual entity, but rather the journey of awareness or the infinite creator experiencing itself. And there is no end to that, no end to our understanding, to what we call our journey of seeking. And what we seek is experience, or to our perceptions of the creation. Imagine the infinite exploring itself. It's infinite. There is no limits. And of course, this is the understanding of infinity. That which is infinite cannot be many, for manyness is a finite concept. That's why, in the East we have non-duality. It's not two. It's not one, but it's not two. It is. There is existence. Even one is concept, is a sort of finity. So to have finity, you must identify or define that infinity as, to have infinity, you must identify or define that infinity as unity. So yes, what else can I say there? Anything or what we perceive as infinity is just this unity or oneness. Everything is contained within infinity. All numbers are contained within infinity. Otherwise, the term does not have any reference or meaning, of course. If any infinite creator, in an infinite creator, there is only unity. You have seen simple examples of unity. You have seen the prism, which shows all colors stemming from the sunlight. This is a simplistic example of unity. Everything is contained within the shining of the lights. The light seems to have these colors, but that's just the way light expresses itself. It doesn't have them. Light is simply light. But once it's expressed, then we can see the variety of colors. Sometimes I have said that we are a sort of kaleidoscope of consciousness or awareness. And that's because we all have a different arrangement of this awareness or this expression of awareness, which really is the substance of which everything is created and out of which everything appears. This is one of the last parts where they say, in truth, there is no right or wrong. there is no polarity, for all will be, as you would say, reconcile at some point in your dance through the mind, body, spirit complex, which you amuse yourself by distorting in various ways at this time. This distortion is not in any case necessary. It is chosen by each of you as an alternative to understanding the complete unity of thought which binds all things. This is thought-provoking again, because right or wrong, that's the duality of morality, right? There is no polarity. There's never been duality. There's never been separation. And in any mystical teaching, this is at the core, right? We want to go to the truth. And this is why in my own expression, my own message, my own teaching, whenever I can, and it's appropriate for people, I don't talk about spirituality, but rather truth. I think it's easier to get along with truth rather than the concepts which spirituality may evoke. And to me, the truth is that we have never experienced separation. We have experienced perception. That's true. But perception is not the way in which things are. It's just how things appear. So things are beyond separation, beyond right or wrong, beyond polarity. The nature of all things is unity. But that unity gets refracted in not just a dual perspective, but a myriad of playfulness, of duality. And again, it seems like all will be reconciled. I would actually say that from our experience, from the point of separation, yes, it seems like it will be. Like we're on a journey, right? Going back to infinity. That's from the perspective of separation, from the separate self. I am a limited being. I'm going through this evolution to unity. But it's never been a separation, right? And so if we understand this, then we can actually add the true dimension of understanding that there never was any separation, me from the world, me from the universe. But it is true that our perceptions indicate otherwise. And so we have the privilege, because that's the way of free will, we have the privilege to see the world that way. And this is not something to admonish or to chastise in ourselves. That's just the playfulness of experience. But like I said, when we are consciously on this path, we cannot deny truth. And so that truth informs us, and the changes and the transformations that occur from this is what we call, well, the spiritual path, the evolution of the spiritual path. So like Ross says, this distortion is not in any case necessary. It is chosen by each of us as an alternative to understanding the complete unity of thought, which binds all things. And the last part here of this question, I have more, but like I said, this is my favorite answer. They say, you're not speaking of similar or somewhat like entities or things. You are everything. Separated, 2 words, every little thing, every being, every emotion, every event, every situation. You are unity. You are infinity. You are love light, light love. And I should have highlighted, I know Tad and Dan assisted my presentation in Kentucky, and they know that I highlighted that part where they say, you are. This is the law of one. Why? Because you are is the most intimate experience that we have.
Yeah.
When we say every event, okay, I bring my attention to the event or to the emotion or to a thing or to a being. So I am those things, right? It's inviting, it's seductive. But when we say you are, or when I say you are, you say I am, right? You say, you acknowledge what I said about you being, you say I am. How does that feel? What does that mean? What do you mean by I am? What are you referring to? Where do you go to check that you are? You see, that is the law of one. And this is the I am principle, right? It's included there beautifully.
Yeah, this is for me also the best of best. It's hit me in the first session already. It's so touching.
A lot. I get goosebumps still. It's just beautiful.
Yeah, me too. I always think on this sentence, and it's so beautiful, so comforting as well, you know. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's, you see, it is our prerogative to explore the many expressions in the mind of, because it's poetry, you know, it's art, it's beauty, to explore it in so many ways. That's why we have this, you know, we are enjoying this. And yet I have never found anything more profound than just this being. How did I ignore it all my life? How did I ignore being itself, what I am, what I fundamentally am, and you know, getting caught in the image of that self, which is, yes, it's frustrating. It provides this satisfaction just to try to hold on to the image. Rather, being is a fluent thing. It's like water. So yeah. And the fact that they finish saying you are, this is the law of one. Boom, that's it. I think they just, as they say in colloquial Americanism, they dropped the mic and they could have left at that point. Message transmitted. You got it all in there. Mic drop. But it's not a true mic drop because I have more. But yeah, I could go on and on for hours on just that slide or that message itself, because we can explore this too ad infinitum. But okay, I think this is maybe the last question that I have. I think this puts there are more questions in this vein, meaning you know, what can we do to assist in this process that we call harvest, graduation, yeah, moving into fourth density and so on. And so here the questionnaire, I don't know if it's done here because it was a group of people for the first and only time that there were more people than them three, I think. I don't know if there was somebody else at some point in some session. But yeah, the questionnaire says, is it possible to create any acceleration of understanding in other entities, or are all efforts by the individual of himself accelerating his understanding? In other words, if an individual tries to act as a catalyst in general to increase the awareness of planetary consciousness, is he doing nothing but acting upon himself? It's actually a pretty smart question. I love it. So Ross says, firstly, you must understand that the distinction between yourself and others is not visible to us. That's pretty powerful. Speaking of, you know, the view of sixth density, reminds me, Yelena, when you were talking about how they see reality. If anybody is familiar with Nisargadatta Maharaj, the way he spoke, it was, you know, it was from a point in which he just said, you know, he was always trying to rebuke the other's questions by saying, the way you see the world, this is what you see. But the way, you know, I see everything is this way. And it's just like he's swallowing the world, you know, he's not part of the world. The world is part of him. So Ra reflects the same thing here. They say, we do not consider that a separation exists between the consciousness raising efforts of the distortion which you project as a personality and the distortion which you project as another personality. Thus, to learn is the same as to teach, unless you are not teaching what you are learning, in which case you have done they little or no good. This understanding should be pondered by your mind-body-spirit complex, as it is a distortion which plays a part in your experiences at this nexus. I think there's something that we all feel as part of this process. We initially are so excited about this that we want to show it to other people. We want to give it to other people. We want them to understand also. And so we have this outward approach. But the truth is that you can never help anybody directly. You can only create the space necessary for them to help themselves. That's healing. And that's the healer, by the way, as expressed in the Law of One. And I agree with that view. So what we're seeing, and this is just my opinion, what we're seeing is the love in ourselves to want to, help others. If we cultivate that love, then it becomes much more powerful than, I'm going to use the word activism. Yeah, spiritual activism, which again is a noble thing, nothing against it. But if you learn that love that is within you, to want to do things, and you cultivate that love, it is much more powerful in whatever expression it may come out. And that's why there is no particular service. There is no such thing as the one service. Every service is given. Even in the negative path, negative entities provide a service, and we can get more into that if you want. Yeah, so that's the dynamic of teach learning. Ramana Maharshi was once asked what was, if the sage that lived in the forest by himself, did he help humanity? And Ramana Maharshi said, yes, he is the one that helps the most. So that's a statement to ponder on, right? Because why do they help? How do they help? Aren't we supposed to help each other physically and, with visible efforts? They continue and say, to turn to the second part of our response, we may state our understanding, limited though it is. I love when Ra humbles themselves and they say, we only know so much. That's something to keep in mind. Group individuated consciousness is that state of sharing understanding with the other distortions of mind-body-spirit complexes, which are within the evident reach of the mind-body-spirit complex individual or group. Thus, we are speaking to you and accepting both our distortions and your own in order to enunciate the laws of creation, more especially the law of one. So I see here that interaction, right? When I talk to you, I am, in essence, distorting reality through my own mind and my filter, and you are receiving my information through the filter of your mind and your own distortions, and then, there's something happening there. We accept this. We understand that. I like to point this out as silence is the best teacher, right? We just can't help ourselves and talk. So we have to do the best that we can with our words. But never forgetting that whatever we're saying is not representative of the truth. This is just art. Words are supposed to be poetry. They're not supposed to be determined things. We're not supposed to build a model of reality based on words. It makes no sense. The most accurate model of reality is that which is. But we can't help ourselves, and we do it anyway. But yeah, that's why, to me, Ra said, we're speaking to you and accepting both our distortions and your own in order to enunciate the laws of creation, which again and again, they say, in your language, in those limitations and so on. It's inviting rather than, academic or trying to teach us the way it is. So yeah, we can play with this. That's the whole purpose. They say we're not available to many of your peoples, for this is not an easily understood way of communication or type of philosophy. Don't we know this? However, our very being is hopefully a poignant example of both the necessity and the near hopelessness of attempting to teach. Just to solidify the point, the previous point. This is not an easy understanding. especially to us who have been for the past 200-300 years, strengthening even more this view of lines and squares. Everything belongs to a square. It's not easy, and even ourselves, we are a moving example, a poignant example of both the necessity of wanting to teach, but then the near hopelessness of doing it, of even attempting. So yeah, don't take serious anything. Why? Why take serious all these things? Take them sincerely, take them with respect, with love, but not serious, if you know what I mean. Each of those in this group is striving to use, digest, and diversify the information, which we are sending this instrument into the channels of the mind-body-spirit complex without distortion, right? We're all attempting to do this. The few whom you will illuminate by sharing your lights are far more than enough reason for the greatest possible efforts. To serve one is to serve all. That's the classic legendary line of Ra. To serve one is to serve all. And this even applies to the self, right? To serve the self. In fact, there's a point where Ra says that the service to others path is so powerful because you're not only serving others, but you're serving yourself. So, it's much more powerful that way. And there is, of course, no separation. So you're working with infinite energy. And the last slide that I have says, therefore, we offer the question back to you to state that indeed it is the only activity worth doing, to learn, teach, or teach, learn. There's nothing else which is of aid in demonstrating the original thought except your very being. I should have highlighted that. And the distortions that come from the unexplained, inarticulate, or mystery-clad being are many. Thus, to attempt to discern and weave your way through as many group mind-body-spirit complex, or not complex, as many group mind-body-spirit distortions as possible among your peoples in the course of your teaching is a very good effort to make. We can speak no more valiantly of your desire to serve. And so in Buddhism, we have the Bodhisattva, right? Which is, the one that vows to save every soul, and it will not rest until every soul is liberated from this illusion of separation. So this is a beautiful way to say, I'll go back to actually to the beginning of this paragraph. When they say, there is nothing else which is of aid in demonstrating, nothing else which is of aid in demonstrating the original thought except your very being. Wow. And here I thought that I had to learn out of this external reality to become something, right, that was of value. And it so happens that the biggest value, it's already within me. And it's not something that, just came suddenly. I was gifted with this, although we use the word gift, we have our gifts and so on, but those gifts have been pouring out. They've been emanating all the time. It's just that we haven't been paying attention. And later on, I'm going to go citing some of the quotes at some points. Don is asking about what is the greatest service, that we can provide. I'll probably look it up because that's just a beautiful part. What is the greatest service that our population on this planet could perform individually, says Don. This is session 15, question 7. Ra says right away, there is but one service, only one service. The law is one. The offering of self to Creator is the greatest service. How amazing is that? Right? Can I reread that, please? There is but one service. And Don's question, what is the greatest service? And not only do they say there is but one service, but they also say the law is one. Go back to that. The offering of self. By the way, I have a strong influence and love and passion, devotion for Buddhism. When Ra uses the word self, they're referring to the manifested self, which is not the eternal self. So this, what we are, this which is manifesting right now, that offering of this to the Creator in alignment with the Creator. A Course in Miracles has different ways of talking about this with, your mind and God's mind become one, right? Christ, the work of Christ, or not as an individual, but Christ as the transcendence in us. So the offering of self to Creator is the greatest service, the unity, the fountainhead. The entity who seeks the one Creator is with infinite intelligence. So yeah, then they go further to talk about the various opportunities that come out of this. So yeah, the greatest service is that, is to offer ourselves to the Creator. And that Creator is, again, our own being. This is what begins everything and what ends everything too. So, okay, that's all I had in my slides. I'll stop sharing.
I have a question in general for the way Ra is sometimes answering, because he use always love, light, light, love, teach, learn, learn, teach. Do you have a explanation maybe why he's doing and expressing it in that way?
Yeah, so a lot of the slashes that they use, it can be, I guess, a bit confusing unless you're reading in context. And it's something definitely to just get into the paragraph itself and see why they said light love or love light. But consider space-time and time-space. That's the easiest one for us, right? Space-time is this dimension of reality in which we are moving through space, and there is one dimension of time. Whereas, in our minds, in time-space, there are 3 dimensions of time. We're moving in 3 dimensions of time, and yet in one space. So you see that a lot across the material, time, space, space-time. An easy way to just see it is that the plane of existence in which the body moves, and then the plane of existence in which the mind moves. For others, like love, light, love, it goes into the nature of creation, as they explain it. So there are 3 first distortions, and that's free will, love, light in that sequence, even though it's not a proper sequence, but still it's all within, the manifestation of the Creator. So love, light, that's the sequence. This is light, which has been impressed with love. And yeah, depending on how you see it, for example, we're moving from light love back to the Creator. And the Creator, which is, it's not we are moving, but this direction of the separate self is light love to me. That's the way I see it. Love light is moving out. So we're a beating heart, right? This is being created, and at the same time is going back. You can even say, just for the sake of illustration, when you wake up in the morning, that's love light. Boom. You're manifesting, you're coming out in existence. When you go to sleep, it's light love, you're returning back. Meditation, the same thing, that kind of thing, if that makes sense. But yeah, there are so many slashes.
It makes sense to me. Thank you very much. Lynn, have another question?
I just want to share my how to say that my knowingness or understanding about the love and light, because I got this in one meditation. The light first, there's a love, there's that why we say the light, which without any color. You can say it's white. And as soon as the light, the prism is white, the white dot. As soon as you get out, that is a distortion. Then there's a color, there's light. The light comes from love. So for me, so I understand the love is a beingness, is original, the original one, the source, and the creation out that is a light. Light is the result of the love, the action of the beingness. I don't know, but yeah, I just want to share with my thoughts. I got this in one meditation. I said, okay, there's a first love, the white spot, and as long as there's that one want to experience itself, so there's a distortion is out. That is light. It's action. Hey, I get out to know myself. So that's a distortion. Then healing started because we want to go back to the white light again. So yeah, I hope I didn't confuse you guys. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. If anyone else have a question or wanted to ask something, we have space for it now. Yeah, you can even comment, or you can want to suggest something for the future sessions. You can do that. Nico.
Yeah, so first of all, I would like to offer my thanks to you, Gabrielle, for all the beautiful pieces of insight that you have offered. And one of them stick with me because I thought that was particularly beautiful. And that was a statement that you made rather in the beginning. It was, we are always able to validate all information from within ourselves. That was a really beautiful sentence. And what I would like to offer is sort of an example for how you can trace the great original thought into your daily lives, because the trouble the human mind seems to have with the great original thought is the fact that, it's so abstract, it's intangible. When I told a couple of friends recently about the law of one and told them that everything is an outgrowth of the one original thought, they said, well, yeah, okay, that's nice, and a part of me can understand that, but what does that actually mean? How is that relevant for me in my daily life? And of course, it's very relevant because your daily life is an outgrowth or a distortion of that one original thought, but that perspective is hidden from you, it's veiled from you, right? So, the idea is that you have to, from a veiled perspective, you have to rediscover that connection or that understanding. No, not understanding, but that connection to the one original thought. And so I would like to simply offer an example for how you can trace it. And it's this short question to the audience. Hands up, please. Who's got a coworker at work that you really don't like? So if you work a 9-to-5 job and that one colleague sends you an email and your first reaction is, oh, sort of, something like that. I got one. So for the sake of this example, let's call him Dave. Whenever Dave reaches out to me, I think, oh, sort of. So I would like to invite you to do a little experiment the next time you get an email from your personal Dave. Next time, don't think sort of, but think, well, under the assumption that, I would be in his shoes, in this person's shoes, then perhaps I would behave in exactly the same way. And perhaps, he's got a lot of packages to carry, and perhaps from his perspective, what he actually, what he says and what he writes actually makes a lot of sense. And suddenly you see how your world or your understanding and your perception of that email changes, and how your emotions about that email change.
It's so simple. The email hasn't changed. It's still the same pixels on your screen, right? And Dave hasn't changed. Dave is still Dave. The only thing that has changed is your way of thinking about Dave and about that email, and suddenly your entire reality shifts. So if you can distort or you can manifest your subjective reality by means of the power of your thought alone on the micro level of that, little email, then how could it be otherwise on the macro level of things? Because you are the creator, right? And if you, in your veiled state, can create reality by your thought, then this has to be true. This has to be true on the macro level as well. And for me, that's proof that, thought actually defines reality and not the other way around, as materialism would suggest it. So thanks, that was my little offering.
Thanks, Nico. This is a very good one. I try also when I have some, let me call it triggers, I also remind myself to try to see the creator on the other side. Yes. And sometimes there are really interesting versions of the creator which you meet in the daily.
Oh, that's a
work.
beautiful perspective. Oh, next time Dave drops me an email, I will simply think, aren't you a very, very interesting version of the creator?
Yes. Gabriel, you like to comment on something on that?
Yeah, thank you, Nico, for sharing that. It made me think of how how is it that knowing yourself can actually allow you to know better other people? In my limited understanding, I used to think of, the more I know things about myself, then the richer, my database will be about, saying, oh, okay, because I have experience in this, I can understand you. This is not true. The truth is that when you know yourself, the deep self, when you get to the bottom of what you are, that you are, when you get to the law of one, when you kind of understand, not kind of, when you fully get that feeling of saying, that's what I essentially am. You don't begin, things become disentangled. These things, when I say things, I mean these thought patterns, right? The thought patterns that come when you read the email or see Dave, these thought patterns are revealed for what they truly are, which is not you. They're just thoughts, like you suggested. They're just things. They're informing my reality. That's all I see. Without that, without any information, I am this, which no way to describe. It's just isness itself. And yet, the more I abide here, the more I'm able to identify those things about me that I am not. Even when I express myself in a very loving way or ecstatic, I know that's still not me. I mean, that is a true movement of myself. That is a true expression of myself, because I can relate this peace that I am with the happiness or joy that is being expressed, and not the other way around. I'm not destructive. That doesn't, and I love that this is very, by the way, I haven't shared the fact that one of the things that I love most about this investigation or this understanding of self-inquiry is that it is the basis of the scientific method. In other words, there's nothing more scientific than this, because we're working with pure observation, experience, analysis, and hypothesis, which we can corroborate over and over again. So the basis of science is this. And so what am I scientific about? What am I learning about? Myself. So that's what I'm learning. I'm learning to discern those things that I'm not. And at that point, when I look at Dave, I say, that's not you. I know that's not you. I know who is behind you, so to speak. You see? So their playfulness, and I was telling this to my wife yesterday, how come we don't do that with kids, right? How come we don't do that with kids? We see a kid, behaving in an irrational way. We don't get all judgmental. I hope not, but Why don't we do it? Because we say, oh, he's a kid. He doesn't know any better. Now, am I saying, that these people are kids? Yes, to a degree, but it's not to demean them. It's just to say, right, who said this? Forgive them for they know not what they do. Something like that. I'm paraphrasing. Something like that. And didn't he used to talk about kids, become like a kid? That's the way we inherit, heaven. So yeah, that's the way this unfolds. The more you know yourself, the more you know what you're not, and then you're able to identify, those behaviors that you say, oh, that's not you. The Zen master asking the visitor, who are you? Oh, I'm just so and so. No, 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 those are your titles. That's your story. Who are you? He couldn't explain himself until suddenly master lost interest about the questioning, and they just got into a casual conversation, and the guy just simply laughs and he says, ah, there you are. See? That's the true meaning of being. And yeah, that's what you begin to see in everybody. And actually you begin to appreciate even their own so-called faults and flaws and all their things. That's just, that's just your, as Ross said, your eccentric ways of behaving and moving your mind, body, spirit complex.
Yeah, I'm a long way from appreciating Dave for what he is, but I can see that he's my mirror, because he irritates me because there is a distortion in me, and without that mirror, I would not be able to identify, let alone work on that distortion, and thus, it becomes catalyst. It doesn't get the irritating thing becomes something, very precious and very valuable, and something that I can be grateful for. And that's at least a start, I would say.
That is a good one. Yes, this is my reflection, my mirror. It's also helped me to accept the others, because this is me. This is my other me. Yeah, it's my reflection. Yeah, it's a good one. Nico, thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for sharing it. Yes, if no one else have to share something or you want to comment anything, that I would say we are going to end our first session. And I really appreciate the numbers of participants, a very good start, and I hope that I will see everybody again by next week. So I will put the recording, or later on we will put it in the group under the section study groups. And I will give the word to Tatiana.
Yeah. I just also wanted to add, for the ones who are going to stay here with us and we are continue this path together, always all questions are welcome. If you have some question during the week appears, oh, maybe because next week is going to be the second session. So if you want to touch some point of them, let us know, write it on the chat, and we will try it with Gabriel and also all of you to go to all these kind of, blurry concepts we have, because it's just about this, about it's exchanging and somehow knowing all each other. And yeah, if you want to, of course, the chat is always open. Those 24 hours open, is no closing. And yeah, Gabriel is also there, and we can go also a little bit deeper if you want, or maybe a little bit broader, as you want. Okay.
Good.
Thank you very much, Tatiana. So then, thank you very much, and then I wish everyone remaining good evening, and thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you.